A very warm welcome back to GlobeTrotting. Airbus launched the A330neo in 2014 at the Farnborough Air Show, aiming it to be an effective cost solution for the 787's dominance and also to enhance their own portfolio of aircraft. The plane would feature two variants, your A330-800 and the A330-900. However, the latter would have the greatest success in the series. In 2025, the A330-800 remains uninteresting for most airlines, with only a handful of active units and a backlog that is scarily minimal compared to the larger variant. In fact, if you are new to the aviation industry and just beginning to learn some of the aircraft names, don't worry, one, we've all been there, you'll definitely get there, but two, you may not actually be all that familiar with the A330-800 because, frankly, you never see it talked about. So why has this really become a key failure for the plane maker? Well, advertised as the longest-ranged mid-size widebody on the market and a versatile champion, it makes this aircraft to be a favourable one, but it has not been viewed in this same limelight by customers. The A330neo broadly incorporates Rolls-Royce Trent 7000 engines. It allows it to keep up with all the latest efficiency standards, but to reduce CO2 emissions and fuel consumptions by 25% over your previous gen jets that it is replacing. Other benefits of the A330-800 include your double-digit cost savings per seat, which airline customers are really looking for when they're seeking out a mid-sized widebody that has less risk over some of your larger planes. The aircraft variant has a maximum range of 8,150 nautical miles and a maximum seating capacity of 406. However, those figures aren't reached based on airlines' typical usage requirements. Airbus says the A330-800's capacity is more likely to reach 220 to 260 in a three-class layout, but that exact figure again will depend on how an airline chooses to arrange its interior products, and that can be based on where it wants to deploy the aircraft alongside much more. Other features include a focus on the customer's experience aboard the plane. This is achieved through the new airspace cabin, which offers more personal space, luggage stowage, and the latest IFE. The A330-800 has a length of 58.36 meters, a cabin length of 45 meters, a fuselage width of 5.64 meters, and a wingspan geometric of 64. But why was the broader family launched? Well, the A330 launched during a genuine turning point in our industry. The 787 was thriving alongside the launch of the 350, resulting in the shift to twin-engine widebodies being all but confirmed. Several factors spurred on the development of the A330neo. Many believe that Airbus was quickly finding it in a tough spot at the time, only offering the A350 for long-haul travel, with its world's largest passenger plane absolutely present and still being produced at the time in the A380, but being wildly out of favour. It wasn't like new orders were rapidly coming through the door, and Airbus therefore needed to find ways to adapt and offer more alternatives in this sector. Generally, the planes it produces must be worth the investment from prospective customers. If deemed not, they're not going to purchase it. Despite being a fantastic plane for the markets it worked in, the A380 certainly wasn't as flexible as the A350 or the former A330ceo, so therefore what it did do was present challenges to Airbus and any prospective operator that would look to take the time to consider the jet. Moreover, while the A350 had launched, this aircraft was not meant to strictly rival the 787. While at times the A350 and 787 have been pitted against each other when airlines have considered a wide-body order, the A350 is really seen as the perfect counter to the 777 and upcoming 777X. As a result, Airbus moved ahead with a re-engine of the A330ceo, a popular option already in the market, to give airlines basically more to consider instead of always opting for the 787. The A330neo was seen internally as a low-cost solution and a relatively quick plane that could be brought to market, and rather than proceeding with a radical and expensive clean sheet that would have slotted into a market maybe not expecting thousands of orders, the Neo model was the best solution. But launched just a decade ago, why has the Dash 800 model struggled so significantly? Well, thus far you've only got a handful of orders for the aircraft, ranging from Garuda Indonesia to Air Greenland, Kuwait Airways, and Uganda Airlines. The most significant order from these four is actually just for 4 units. You don't have an airline that really stands out from this, nor do you have a visible amount of units ordered that sticks out. Say a Cebu Pacific with 100. No, it's really modest. Now, previously Hawaiian Airlines had had placed orders. However, this was driven by the cancellation of an A350-800 model. Essentially, the order was then switched to the A330-800, then the deal was ultimately scrapped, with the US company opting for the 787. During the A330neos launched, the thought of the variants encompassing this model was to replace the existing A330ceo models. However, since the previous generation models launched, industry trends have shifted, and your A330-200, considered modest like the A330-800, has been more often than not deemed surplus to most airlines' requirements, and when they've gone about replacing this jet, it hasn't really been through a like-for-like, but rather looking at other available options. And if they have decided to go with the A330neo, they've gone for the A330-900 rather than the Dash 800. Your 900 model is the higher capacity variant, and what is considered by most to be in a more optimal stance. The more optimal nature of the Dash 900 is certainly achieved through really factors such as that increased capacity, which, while limits the range, is a more compelling enough reason to offset anything that the A330-800 is able to provide. Furthermore, you've got to consider that the A330neo also came out later than the 787, giving Boeing's Dreamliner a real chance at the market. Had the roles been reversed, while the A330-800 may have stood a better chance. However, even when the A330neo launched, the A330ceo was not nearing the end of its life for most carriers, whereas the 787 launched as a bit of a clean sheet in a market segment where it aimed to take complete control of something new and groundbreaking, and it truly did that with this aircraft. The A330neo was a bit of a less risky option, and it has remained that way. Airbus knows they don't need 3,000 orders to break even on this. It'll be an aircraft that'll slowly but surely accumulate more orders time and time again. So what's next for the Dash 800? That is really the multi-billion-dollar question on the lips of analysts and probably Airbus itself. In the mid-2020s, the order scenario for the A330-800 does not get any better. It's still at all-times lows, with little to no interest in the smallest model in the series. The A330neo was again never expected to completely light it up from an order standpoint. However, it has enjoyed a pretty positive last few years, with quite a few considerable commitments from industry leaders, and on each occasion that the A330neo was ordered, there was one variant that was left out, and frankly never considered, and that is your Dash 800. With such few purchases and units flying, airlines that would maybe even look to commit to the type are going to have their concerns, from the ecosystem it has been created to the lack of international brands. They therefore see the Dash 900 as a more reliable and safer bet for their business, and it's hard to argue. There is a natural chance that the A330-800 could secure future orders. However, that pool of interested customers continuously seems non-existent, and whenever the A330neo is brought up, it is the Dash 900 model that is effectively mentioned. You would be forgiven if you completely forgot of the Dash 800's existence. And while it may potentially fill a ever so specific niche, and this maybe really will be the purpose of this plane, that niche is very, very small. Keen to hear your take down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Please take care. Do be safe. I'll see you in a couple of days for your latest industry analysis right back here on GlobeTrotting. And we'll fly.